Ever try picturing nature, but like without names for anything?
Yeah.
The total mayhem, right?
Yeah.
Today we're tackling taxonomy,
Okay.
the science that brings order to the wild world of life.
You've sent over some slides that
hmm
are blowing my mind. Seriously, there's so much I didn't know about how we classify living things.
Well, it's a fascinating field, that's for sure, and it goes way deeper than just slapping labels on
Oh,
things.
that's what I'm realizing. I'm ready to uncover those aha moments, so let's dive in. First off, can you remind us what taxonomy actually is at its core?
Well, at its heart, taxonomy is about relationships. It's the science of not just naming, but describing and classifying organisms based on their shared characteristics,
Mhm.
essentially building a massive family tree for all of life.
And this shared language is what lets scientists all over the world communicate about species, right?
Precisely. Imagine the chaos if every research team had their own naming system. Taxonomy provides that crucial universal reference point. Makes sense. Our slides mention Carl Linnaeus as a pivotal figure in this. Who was he and what made him so important to taxonomy?
Linnaeus, the father of taxonomy, was a Swedish botanist, zoologist, and physician. Back in 1735, he published Systema Naturae, which revolutionized how we classify life. His biggest contribution, binomial nomenclature, the two-part naming system we still use today. Think Homo sapiens for us, humans genus first, then species.
So elegant, yet so effective. But Linnaeus didn't stop there, did he? He also developed the hierarchical system for grouping organisms, right?
You're right. He gave us the framework for organizing life into different levels, from the very broad to the incredibly specific.
Okay.
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. It's like zooming in from the entire forest to a single leaf on a specific branch.
And each level gets progressively more specific, narrowing down the shared characteristics.
Exactly. Take the phylum Chordata, which includes all creatures with backbones. That means we humans are in there with birds, reptiles, fish. We're all connected by that one key feature. But then it branches out from there.
It's fascinating how one shared trait can link such diverse life forms. But then our slides mention Arthropoda being the largest animal phylum. What's in that group?
Think of all the insects, arachnids, and crustaceans out there. It's mind-boggling how many variations exist just within beetles, spiders, crabs, lobsters. That's why they take the crown for largest phylum.
Wow, okay. And to think, we're still discovering new species all the time. Okay, before we get too deep into specific groups, let's step back to the highest level, the three domains. Our slides say they're based on fundamental cell structure, what makes each domain unique.
Think of domains as the broadest possible categories, based on the very building blocks of life. Bacteria are single-celled organisms without a nucleus, found practically everywhere on Earth.
Some are harmful, but many are beneficial, right? It's amazing how such tiny organisms can have such a huge impact.
Absolutely. Now, Archaea are also single-celled and lack a nucleus, but they're the extremophiles of the microbial world.
Okay.
They thrive in environments that would kill most other organisms, boiling hot springs, super salty lakes, even volcanic vents.
Talk about resilience. And then there's Eukarya, which is where we humans fit in, right?
Correct. Eukarya encompasses all organisms with complex cells that contain a nucleus. This is where we see the incredible diversity of multicellular life, from plants and animals to fungi and protists.
So we got the three domains, and within those we have the six kingdoms, right?
Exactly. Each kingdom represents a major branch within a domain, further classifying life based on shared characteristics and evolutionary history.
Okay, I'm ready to branch out into the kingdoms. So what can you tell us about Archaebacteria? They sound pretty extreme.
Archaebacteria, as the name suggests, belong to the Archaea domain. They're those single-celled survivors we talked about, thriving in environments that would make most other life forms shrivel up and say, nope.
So they're the ultimate when the going gets tough organisms. What about Eubacteria?
Eubacteria are also single-celled and lack a nucleus, but you find them in more typical environments. Think the bacteria in our guts or the ones that can cause infections.
Okay, so those are our two bacterial kingdoms. Now, Protista always felt a bit like a miscellaneous category to me. What unites them?
You're not wrong. Protista is incredibly diverse. Most are single-celled, but some are multicellular. What they share is a nucleus and being eukaryotic. Some are like plants, producing their own food, while others get their nutrients from other sources.
So it's a bit of a catch-all for those eukaryotes that don't fit neatly into the other kingdoms.
Yeah.
But with that nucleus as their common ground, what comes next?
Let's talk fungi. the masters of decomposition and nutrient recycling.
Okay.
They're multicellular with the nucleus and get their nutrients by absorbing organic matter. From the mushrooms we eat to the molds that break down fallen leaves, they play a vital role in ecosystems.
Essential, yet sometimes overlooked. Now, Plantae seems pretty straightforward. Those are our plants, right?
Precisely. Multicellular with a nucleus, they're the foundation of most terrestrial ecosystems. They use photosynthesis to produce their own food, providing us with oxygen and forming the basis of many food webs.
They're the ultimate providers. And finally, we reach our own kingdom, Animalia.
That's us. Multicellular with a nucleus, or heterotrophs, meaning we have to consume other organisms for energy. And the diversity within this kingdom is simply astounding. From microscopic worms to gigantic whales, the forms and lifestyles are endless.
I love how each kingdom has its own unique set of characteristics and roles to play in the grand tapestry of life. But how do scientists map out all these complex relationships, especially when new species are constantly being discovered?
That's where cladistics comes in. It's like detective work for evolutionary relationships.
Intriguing. Can you explain how that works?
It all hinges on identifying shared derived characteristics features that evolved in a common ancestor and were passed down to its descendants. By tracing these characteristics, we can create branching diagrams called cladograms that visually represent those evolutionary relationships.
So it's about figuring out who's related to whom based on these shared traits. But cladograms aren't static, are they? New discoveries can reshape our understanding of how those branches connect.
You're absolutely right. As we gather more evidence through fossils, genetics, and even behavioral observations, those cladograms can shift. It's a dynamic process, constantly refining our understanding of life's interconnectedness.
This is already making me look at the natural world in a whole new light. I'm eager to delve deeper into those cladograms and see how they reveal the hidden connections between different life forms.
I think you'll be amazed by what we uncover.
Okay, so we've established that cladograms are like these incredible family trees for life on Earth. But they're not just static diagrams, are they?
Not at all. Think of them as constantly evolving hypotheses.
Okay.
As we uncover new fossils, refine genetic analysis techniques, or even just observe new behaviors in living organisms, our understanding of those evolutionary relationships can shift.
It's almost like putting together a massive jigsaw puzzle, but new pieces keep appearing, and sometimes we have to rearrange what we thought we knew.
That's a great analogy. And sometimes those new pieces can completely change our perspective. Take the relationship between birds and dinosaurs, for example. For centuries, we classified them separately. But as paleontologists unearthed more fossils of feathered dinosaurs, particularly theropods, the picture became much clearer.
You mean the realization that birds are actually a type of dinosaur?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those mind-blowing scientific discoveries that really makes you rethink everything you thought you knew.
It certainly shook things up. Those shared characteristics, skeletal structures, feather types, even nesting behaviors, all pointed towards birds being descended from those ancient theropods. So we had to redraw our cladograms to reflect this newfound understanding.
It really highlights the power of cladistics, looking beyond superficial appearances to those deeper shared characteristics that reveal the true story of evolution. But with so many species out there, how do scientists even begin to identify those key traits that link organisms together?
It's a combination of meticulous observation and analysis. Scientists look at anatomical details, developmental patterns, genetic data, even behavioral similarities. And sometimes the most unexpected characteristics can turn out to be the most revealing.
It's like being a detective, searching for clues in the tiniest details.
Oh,
Now, our slides mention this incredible statistic. There could be as many as 8.7 million eukaryotic species on Earth. But we've only identified and named about 1.2 million so far. That means there's a vast world of undiscovered life out there.
it's truly humbling. And many of these undiscovered species likely reside in the most challenging environments to study, the deep sea, dense rainforests, even microscopic ecosystems right beneath our feet.
It makes you realize how much we still don't know about the planet we call home. But if we haven't even discovered most of these species, how can scientists even begin to estimate that 8.7 million number?
It's a bit like trying to count the stars in the sky. Scientists use a variety of techniques, looking at patterns of biodiversity in known areas and extrapolating that data to unexplored regions. They also use mathematical models to predict potential species numbers based on factors like habitat types and environmental conditions.
So a combination of field observations, data analysis, and some good old-fashioned scientific guesstimation. But what about the species we have discovered? Were there any recent finds that stand out as particularly strange or surprising?
Oh, absolutely. The natural world is full of wonders. One that comes to mind is the goblin shark,
Okay.
a deep-sea creature with an extendable jaw that shoots out like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I just looked it up. That is one bizarre-looking fish. It's amazing how nature can come up with such incredible adaptations.
Right. And then there's the psychedelic frogfish. It's a small, brightly colored fish that actually walks along the seafloor using its pectoral fins.
Wow.
It looks like it's wearing a tie-dye outfit.
Talk about personality. It makes you wonder what other amazing creatures are out there waiting to be discovered.
There's no shortage of wonders in the natural world, and each new discovery emphasizes the importance of taxonomy and biodiversity studies. The more we understand about how life is organized and interconnected, the better equipped we are to conserve and protect this incredible tapestry of life.
It makes you realize that even the smallest, seemingly insignificant creatures can play vital roles in ecosystems. So what can we as individuals do to support biodiversity and the work of taxonomists? It can feel overwhelming to think about making a difference on such a large scale.
You'd be surprised how much impact everyday actions can have. Supporting conservation organizations, making sustainable choices, even just spending time in nature and learning about the plants and animals in your local area, it all adds up.
So educating ourselves, reducing our ecological footprint, and getting involved in citizen science projects can all contribute to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to know that we can all be a part of the solution.
Absolutely. Every action counts when it comes to preserving biodiversity, and the more we understand about the incredible web of life on Earth, the more motivated we'll be to protect it.
Speaking of that web of life, I'm curious, are there any major debates or controversies happening right now in the world of taxonomy?
Oh, there are always lively discussions. One hot topic is the use of molecular data, like DNA sequences, in classification. It's revolutionized our understanding of evolutionary relationships, but there's ongoing debate about how to weigh molecular data against traditional morphological observations.
So it's not always a clear-cut case of which characteristics are most important when classifying organisms.
Exactly. And then there's the perennial debate about how we even define a species in the first place. That classic definition of a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring, it's not always so simple.
What do you mean?
Well, there are instances where different species can hybridize or where populations within a species become isolated and might be on their way to becoming distinct species. It's a complex and dynamic process.
It seems like taxonomy is as much about asking the right questions as it is about finding answers, but that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Right.
It's a constantly evolving field, driven by new discoveries and a thirst for knowledge.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about it. It's a never-ending exploration, always pushing the boundaries of what we know about life on Earth.
This deep dive has definitely sparked a newfound curiosity in me. I'm looking at the world around me with a whole new sense of wonder, considering those hidden connections and the incredible diversity that we're only just beginning to grasp.
That's the beauty of taxonomy. It opens our eyes to the interconnectedness of all living things and inspires us to explore and learn more.
I'm ready for more insights. What else can you share about the fascinating world of taxonomy? I'm realizing that taxonomy isn't just about memorizing facts and figures.
Right.
It's about understanding the epic narrative of life on Earth.
Exactly. It's like piecing together a giant, ever-evolving puzzle where each species, each characteristic is a clue to the bigger picture.
And as we've been discussing, those clues can lead to some pretty mind-blowing revelations. I mean, who would have thought that birds are essentially modern-day dinosaurs?
Right. It makes you wonder what other surprising connections are still out there waiting to be uncovered. And speaking of surprises, one of the biggest shocks to me when I first started learning about taxonomy was just how MUCH we still don't know.
You mean that staggering statistic about the millions of potential species yet to be discovered? It's both humbling and exhilarating, isn't it?
Absolutely. It really highlights how much there's still left to explore, especially in those less accessible environments like the deep ocean or remote rainforests. Who knows what incredible adaptations and symbiotic relationships we might find.
It's like there's a whole other planet's worth of life right here on Earth, just waiting to be revealed. But I have to ask, with all this new information constantly emerging, are there any major debates happening right now in the world of taxonomy? I imagine there's always some disagreement about the right way to classify things.
Oh, absolutely. Taxonomy is a dynamic field, and there are always lively discussions about how to best represent evolutionary relationships. One of the biggest debates revolves around the use of molecular data like DNA sequencing.
So it's not just about physical characteristics anymore.
Right. Molecular data has revolutionized our understanding of evolutionary history, providing insights that we could never have gleaned from morphology alone. But there's still debate about how to weigh this new molecular evidence against the traditional methods.
It sounds like there's a lot of nuance involved in deciding which data takes precedence.
There definitely is. And then there's the ongoing discussion about how we even define a species in the first place. That traditional definition of a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring, it doesn't always hold up in the real world.
So it's more complex than just looking at whether organisms can reproduce together.
Much more. We have to consider things like hybridization, where different species can interbreed under certain circumstances, or geographically isolated populations that might be on their way to becoming distinct species. It's a fascinating and ever-evolving area of research.
This deep dive has really made me appreciate how much more there is to taxonomy than I ever realized. It's not just a rigid system of labels, it's a dynamic process of discovery, constantly being refined as we learn more about the interconnectedness of life.
And that interconnectedness is something we need to keep in mind, especially as we face challenges like biodiversity loss and climate change. Understanding the intricate web of life is crucial for making informed decisions about conservation and environmental protection.
It's a powerful reminder that every species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, has a role to play in the larger ecosystem. And who knows, maybe some of those undiscovered species hold the key to solving some of humanity's biggest challenges.
Absolutely. There's so much potential locked away in that undiscovered biodiversity, from medical breakthroughs to new sustainable technologies. That's why supporting taxonomy and biodiversity research is so crucial. It's an investment in our future.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from Linnaeus's groundbreaking work to the ongoing debates shaping the future of taxonomy. I have to say, I'm leaving this deep dive with a renewed sense of wonder and a thirst for more knowledge.
That's what it's all about. Never stop exploring, never stop questioning, and never stop being amazed by the incredible diversity of life on our planet.
What a fantastic way to wrap things up. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of taxonomy. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the unknown.